So it's late Friday night, I'm peckish and I've got a hankering for some French onion soup. French onion soup is a classic for a reason. It's a great way of taking some humble, cheap ingredients and turning them into something that's rich, unctuous and delicious. The only downside to making French onion soup is that caramelizing onions takes ages. But in this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to speed up this process that can be used for any recipe that needs caramelized onions. Let's get snacking. We'll get to the onions in a minute, but once they start cooking, they're going to need my full attention for a while, so before that starts, I'm getting my croutons ready. Traditionally, French onion soup is served with one big crouton floating in the middle, covered in cheese. While this makes for a really nice presentation, I find one big crouton is a little bit awkward to eat, so I'm going to make a raft of smaller croutons instead. For me, this ends up being a nicer eating experience. If you prefer one big crouton, a nice big slice of baguette would be perfect. But for my purposes, I'm just taking some plain white bread, slicing it into cubes, a light drizzle of olive oil, and popping them into an oven at 190 degrees Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. These will probably take 15 to 20 minutes, but I highly recommend setting a timer for 10 minutes and checking them as you go. These go from being nice and crispy to burnt very quickly, and if you're anything like me, you're likely to get distracted and forget about them. And now onto the soup itself. This recipe is going to make one generous serve, so to make a larger batch, just multiply all of the quantities by the number of servings that you need. So as you might expect, we're going to start with an onion. A brown onion. 2 brown onions even. I'll start by chopping one in half, root to tip, and then I'll peel off the skin. Often there's a layer underneath the skin that's a little bit dry that also needs to be removed. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to tell how many layers to remove, so the one tip for this that I have is that when I remove the tip of the onion, instead of cutting down like I normally would, I flip the onion over and cut from the cut side towards the skin. I find the point at which the knife stops cutting and starts pushing gives a pretty clear indication of which layers need to be removed. So I'm peeling the skin and those dry layers off. I don't want to waste too much of the onion, but the part of the onion near the root tends to be quite tough and woody, so I'm just going to carefully chop that out, and then I'm going to slice the onion root to tip. The direction you slice the onion is important for this dish. If you cut the onions crossways, they break down more as they caramelize, and it all ends up a bit mushy. To try and keep the slices roughly even, I'm slicing in a radial pattern, aiming for just below the center of the onion. It's not super important that all the slices are the same, because they will shrink down quite a lot as they caramelize, but the mouthfeel tends to be a bit nicer if they're roughly the same. And I'm just going to continue that process for both onions until everything's nice and finely sliced. Now all my onions are nicely sliced, and it seems like my croutons are ready too. So I'll remove those from the oven, put them on a plate, and set them aside for now. Next up, let's talk saucepans. For this recipe, I would avoid non-stick because developing some browning on the bottom of the pan is exactly what we need to speed up the caramelization process. A pan that has a nice heavy base is ideal. This will help to evenly distribute the heat and make sure that there's no hot spots that are going to burn. We'll also need a lid for part of the cooking, but if your saucepan doesn't have a lid, a small plate will do the job just fine. I'm putting the pan over a high heat, and once it's got pretty hot, I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of oil. Once the oil is hot, throw in the onions, add a pinch of salt, and put on the lid. The salt will help to draw out the moisture, and the lid will trap in the steam, and this steam will cause the onions to soften and cook through a lot quicker. Now it's been 4 to 5 minutes, and as you can see, the onions have softened up and sweated down. So now we'll remove the lid, give them a quick stir, and then leave them undisturbed for a few minutes. And here's a tip for late night cooking. When you tap the spoon on the side of the saucepan to get the onions off, the sound resonates through the stove and can be quite loud. If you pick the saucepan up, there's less solid material for the sound to resonate through, and it's significantly quieter. A good tip when you're trying to not disturb the rest of the house. Use the wooden spoon to move the onions aside every now and then to check the bottom of the pan. What we're looking for is some nice browning where the onions have been in contact with the pan. This browning is called a fond and is full of caramelized flavor. So once you've built up a decent amount, give the onions a really good stir and use the wooden spoon to scrape up as much as you can. If it gets to a point where you can't scrape it off or it looks like it's at risk of burning, add a splash of water to loosen it up. Once you've got all the brown off the bottom and mixed in through the onions, let it sit undisturbed again for another 4 to 5 minutes, checking the fond periodically to make sure nothing's burning. Then again, give it a really good stir and use a splash of water to loosen up all of that fond and make sure nothing's burning. Repeat this process a few more times and you'll end up with nice, evenly caramelized onions. Some people suggest adding baking soda to this because the higher pH level aids the caramelization process. I tend to avoid this because I find that the baking soda just turns the onions to mush. If you keep this at a high heat and get the timing of your stirring right, the whole process should take about 15 minutes. And there we have some nicely caramelized onions. To help thicken the soup, I'm adding 1.5 teaspoons of plain flour and then cooking that out for a minute or so. This will help thicken up the soup and give it a nice silky mouthfeel. Now let's talk stock. Normally this would be made with beef stock, but I've got this beautiful homemade chicken stock that I just can't resist using. Use the best stock that you've got available. This stock is beautifully gelatinous. If you're using powdered stock, that's fine, you'll still get a really tasty result. But if you think it needs a bit of extra body, you can add 1 teaspoon of gelatin powder. That way it should be just as unctuous as this homemade stock. So before the flour starts to burn on the bottom of the pan, I'm going to throw in the stock to deglaze, and again use the wooden spoon to scrape up all the tasty brown bits off the bottom. If you're using powdered or store-bought stock, 400 to 500 ml should be perfect. I've used about 300 ml of this homemade stock, but because it's really strong, I'm also adding a bit of water. In total, I'm adding about 400 to 500 ml of liquid. You can adjust the total liquid level depending on how thick or thin you like your soup. Once that's all mixed in and heated through, it's time to give it a taste and adjust the seasonings. You can finish this off however you like, depending on your personal tastes. I find it usually needs a little bit more salt, a little bit more savouriness, and a little bit of acidity. So for the acidity, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of balsamic vinegar, and for savouriness and saltiness, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of soy sauce and 1 teaspoon of the unpronounceable sauce. One final taste, and I think for me this needs a little bit more salt, so I'm adding another ½ teaspoon of soy sauce. A little bit of fish sauce would work really well here too. And then finally I'm throwing in about 1 teaspoon of dried thyme and 1 minced garlic clove. I'm just giving that long enough for those flavours to infuse, about 30 to 60 seconds, and then I'm pouring this out into an oven-safe bowl. And that's our finished soup, velvety smooth and with rich, deep caramelized flavours. This would be great just how it is, but let's go ahead and garnish it anyway. Topping with our crunchy croutons, and then covering that in grated cheese. I'm using a blend of mozzarella and parmesan. Gruyere would be absolutely perfect, but really any cheese you like will be fine. And then we're firing up the grill or broiler and popping this underneath until the cheese is nice and melty. Be very careful taking this out because now both the soup and the bowl are likely to be really hot. Oh, and that looks pretty good. And just in case this wasn't oniony enough, I'm giving it a sprinkle of fresh chives. And doesn't that look fantastic? And it tastes even better. A beautiful depth of flavour, sweet and savoury at the same time, crunchy croutons, and beautiful stretchy melted cheese. This has absolutely got to be one of the world's best soups. If you've never had it, I really hope you'll give it a try. If you'd like to learn how to make the delicious homemade chicken stock that I used in this video, using chicken scraps and offcuts that would otherwise go to waste, click this video here. If you'd like to have a look at any of the equipment that I use, check out the affiliate links in the description below. Click the like button if you've enjoyed this, and subscribe for more snacking adventures. Until next time, happy snacking.